class we discussed about the inheritance definition, and we discussed about the types of inheritance. In that we discussed about the single inheritance, like what are the how to define a single inheritance, right? So here first we discussed about the inheritance definition, right? Then we discussed about the types of inheritance. In that we discussed about the single inheritance. Okay, so in the last class we discussed about the inheritance definition. So what is an inheritance definition? So it is nothing but we are deriving a new class from an old class. Okay, that is called as an inheritance, and it is nothing but we are extracting the properties or the qualities or the features, okay, from your parents. Okay, maybe in the last class, okay, the example was she has inherited her beauty from her parents. Okay, that is nothing but she has inherited some properties or the qualities from her parents. So it is nothing but you are deriving a new class from an old class. Okay, that is called as an inheritance. Okay, after that we discussed about the types of inheritance. We have different kinds of inheritance: single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, right? So in that we discussed about single inheritance. In single inheritance we have only one new class, and there is only one derived class, and there is only one parent class, and there is only one child class. So that child class is derived from one parent class. So we have one base class and there is only one subclass. Okay, that is called as a single inheritance. Okay, there is only one base class and one derived class. Okay, so these are the contents we'll be covering on in our presentation, and this is an inheritance definition. Okay, this is all inheritance definition. Then we discussed about advantages. Okay, this real life example we discussed. Okay, after that how diagrammatically we can what is inheritance is about. Okay, so we have faculty and student class, where student class is inheriting the properties of faculty class. Okay, then we discussed about the syntax of inheritance, how we declare an inheritance. We have this is a subclass. So before declaring a subclass, there must be a base class. Okay. Then we have base class, subclasses. Okay, these are all subclasses inheriting properties from the base classes. Okay, then we discussed about this example. We have animal is an base class and dog is an subclass, where dog inherits the properties from the animal base class. And this example program we discussed how we can use inheritance concept, and in the main function we have created an object. Okay, in that once we have created an object, then we are accessing the value called legs and tail value, that is through d.legs and d.tail. And next we get the same program, then this is the expected output. We have legs are 4, tail is 1. Inheritance visibility mode, we have different types of visibility mode. We discussed about public inheritance, private inheritance and protected inheritance. And then these are the types of inheritance. We have single inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multi-level inheritance and hybrid inheritance. Okay, and this is the concept. We have single inheritance where we have only one base class and one derived class. In multiple inheritance we have two base classes or more than one base classes and only one child class or subclass. Then we have multi-level inheritance where the child class is derived from already derived class. Okay, we are deriving a new class from already derived class. So that is called as a multi-level inheritance. What is hierarchical inheritance? We have only one base class and there are many subclasses. Okay, that is called as an hierarchical inheritance. And what is hybrid inheritance? Hybrid inheritance is a combination of maybe two or different kinds of inheritance. Maybe it is a combination or mixture of multiple inheritance and hierarchical inheritance. That is called as a hybrid inheritance. Okay, then we discussed about the single inheritance where we have only one base class and one subclass. And single inheritance example where single class is derived from a single parent class is called single inheritance. And these are some examples where we have animal is an base class which is derived from living things. These all concepts. These are all examples we discussed in the last class, and this is a syntax of how we declare a single inheritance where we have only one base class and one child class. Okay. The next is an example of single inheritance where we have one vehicle base class, and these are subclasses. Class A is your base class and class B is your derived class, which is extracting the properties from class A. This example, this is a single inheritance example. This is covered in the last class. Okay, and even this. Okay, next coming to multiple inheritance. Okay, so as we discussed in the last class about single inheritance, where we have only one base class and one derived class. Okay, there is only one child class, there is only one parent class. Okay, that is called as a single inheritance, where child class is extracting the properties from your base class or from your parent class. Okay, that is called a single inheritance. But next, what we have, next kind of inheritance is multiple inheritance. Okay, what is multiple inheritance? In this type of inheritance, a single derived class may inherit from two or more than two base classes. Okay, so here the concept is what? We have many base classes. Okay, maybe it is more than one base classes and there is only one child class. Okay, so in this type of inheritance, single derived class may inherit from two or more than two base classes. Okay, we can have more than one base classes or more than two base classes, but only one subclass. So you can see here class C is what? Your one subclass, and class A and class B are what? Your parent class. Okay, it has two base classes and there is only one subclass. Okay, so this is what it highlights the concept of multiple inheritance, right? So here we have more base classes and there is only one child class. Okay, more base classes, that is class A and class B are what? Parent class, or you can call it as a what? Your base class, and there is only one child class called class C. Okay, so this is what it is highlighting, the concept of multiple inheritance, many base classes and there is only one child class. Multiple inheritance example. Okay, in multiple inheritance example, when a class is derived from two or more base classes, such inheritance is called multiple inheritance. It allows us to combine the feature of several existing classes into a single class. For example, petrol is derived from both liquid and fuel. Okay, so here what happens? So here liquid and fuel are what? Your base classes, and petrol is what? Your child class or subclass. So here petrol is derived from two classes called liquid and fuel. Okay, these are two base classes. Child has character of both his or her father and mother. Okay, so here child is derived from father or mother. Okay, so we have two base classes and there is only one child class. Okay, so this is highlighting the concept of multiple inheritance where we have two base classes and only one child class. So this is a syntax of multiple inheritance. Okay, so when you are defining a multiple inheritance, we should have many base classes. Okay, so that's why we have class is a keyword and base class 1. In that we are defining properties and methods. Next we have class base class 2. Then we have properties and methods. Okay, then we are deriving a new class. So we are defining class, derived class name, visibility mode. You can specify public, private, protected according to the user requirement or according to the programmer requirement. You can specify the visibility mode. Then next we have base class 1 and visibility mode base class 2. So here we have two base classes. We are deriving only one subclass, but from two base classes. So that's why I'm specifying base class 1 and base class 2, right? So in this derived class we have properties and methods. Okay, so base class 1, base class 2, and there is only one derived class from two. There is only one derived class from two base classes. Okay, so this is how we can derive or we can define a multiple inheritance. Then next we have multiple inheritance example. Okay, so what is class A here? Class A is your parent class, right? So we should have many base classes, right? So according to the definition, we should have many base classes or parent classes. So here we have class A is what? Your parent class. Class A is your parent class and class B is what? Your again, this is again one more parent class. Next class C is what? Class C is what? Your child class, but which is derived from two base classes called B and A. Okay, so this is how we can derive a This is how we can write an multiple inheritance. Okay, so in that class A and class P are both are parent. Okay, and so here class C is your child class and class A and B are your parent class. So here child class C inherits the properties of both class A and class B. So according to the definition it says, so here child class C is inheriting the properties of both class A and class B. Okay. So after inheritance child class C look like this. So class C, public B and public A, public, okay, and then we are defining some data member. Okay. So here class C is derived from these two base classes called A and B. The next, this is an example. Okay, this is an example program of multiple inheritance. Okay, so we have a class A. Okay, in that we have one data member called string name. Okay, after that I am defining class B, that is int marks. Okay, after that I am defining class A. It is derived from two base classes called public B and public A. Then void show. Okay, so this is nothing but your member function. So void show is what? Your member function, and it is defining name is, okay, here the name will be printed and here the marks will be printed. So in the main function we are creating an object. Okay, we are creating an object called C of which class? Of subclass called C. Okay, class C. Okay, C is an object of subclass C. After that C dot name we are defining Adil, Aslam. Okay, that is one name we are defining to the data member. Okay, which is accessible. Actually that is defined in class A, but we have created an object of class C. So it will access the properties of class A as well as class B. So it can access the data member called name. Okay, which is defined in class A. So C dot name Adil Aslam, C dot marks is defined in this class B, but still this can access the properties of class B. So C dot marks equal to 90. Then C dot show. So once you call C dot show, so here the member function which is written in class C will execute this this name as well as marks. So name is, so it will print name here. So whatever the name is assigned, that is Adil Aslam, will be printed here, and here marks are, it will print here 90. Okay. So this is how we can define a multiple inheritance where we have many base classes and only one child class. So here name is Adil Aslam and marks are 90. So types of inheritance, in that next kind of inheritance we have hierarchical inheritance. So what is hierarchical inheritance? In this type of inheritance, multiple derived classes inherit from a single base class. So we have only one base class but many child classes. Okay. So that is what we call it as an inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, where we have class A is your parent class and class B, C and D are what your child classes. Okay, hierarchical inheritance example. So here, when more than one classes are derived from a single base class, such inheritance is known as hierarchical inheritance. Exactly, we have only one single base class but many derived classes or many child classes. Such type of inheritance is called hierarchical inheritance, where features that are common in lower level are included in parent class. Problems where hierarchy has to be maintained can be solved easily using this inheritance. Okay, for example, civil, computer, mechanical, electrical are derived from engineer. Okay, so here engineer is what? Your one base class, and these are civil, computer, mechanical, electrical are your subclasses. Okay, these are all child classes which are derived from only one base class called engineer. Okay. Similarly, the natural language, programming language are derived from language. So here language is your base class and natural language, programming language are subclasses which are derived from one common class called language. Understood, right? So hierarchical inheritance is nothing but we have only one base class and many subclasses. Okay, all the subclasses are derived from only one base class. So that's such kind of inheritance is called hierarchical inheritance. So this is an example of hierarchical inheritance. How we define an example of hierarchical inheritance is here. Side is what? Your base class. Then we have, these are square and cube are what? Your subclasses, right? So here square is derived from one base class called size. Similarly, cube is derived from what? One sub base class called size. So here we have many subclasses but only one base class called size. So this is highlighting the feature or the concept of hierarchical inheritance. Okay, so this is a syntax of hierarchical inheritance. So first class base class name. Okay, so here I am defining first one base class. Okay, after that I am deriving a next subclass derived class 1 visibility mode base class name. Again next derived class 2. Again it is inheriting from the base class. So next, so here we have two subclasses but only one base class. Okay, so this is a similarly we can derive many subclasses. So that is what class derived class n. Okay, you can derive many subclasses but there is only one base class. Okay, hierarchical inheritance example. Here A is parent class, B is what? Again it's an subclass, class C is your subclass, class D is again subclass. So all these B, C, D are what? Your subclasses are derived from only one base class called class A. Okay, so this hierarchical inheritance concept is clear, right? So here A is what? Your parent class, and class B, C, D are child classes of class A. Yeah, clear, right? Next is what? Your multiple inheritance. So we discussed about hierarchical, multiple inheritance. Next kind of inheritance we have multi-level inheritance. So in this type of inheritance, the derived class inherits from a class which in turn inherits from some other class. The super class for one is subclass for other. Okay, so here multi-level inheritance is what? You are deriving a new class from already derived class. So that is called as a multi-level inheritance. Suppose we have one parent class, then next we have one child class. So here the class A and class B. So class B is derived from class A. Again when you are deriving a class C is derived from class B. So there is a chain. Okay. So when you are deriving again class D is derived from class C. So this is nothing but you are deriving a new class from already new derived class, or okay, maybe you are deriving a new class from already derived class. That is called as a multi-level inheritance. For example, so here we have class A with class B and class, there is again one class. Okay, so here what we are doing, maybe so class A. Okay, so here class B is what? It is derived from class A, right? Similarly, so here when you are here the class A acting as most parent class. This is first parent class. Then next here it acts as parent as well as child class. So when you are deriving class B from class A, so in that case it is class A is parent, class B acts as child class. But when you are deriving class, okay, so when you are deriving this class, so here class is your child class and class B acts as an parent class, because this class is extracting the feature, or this is derived from, this class is extracting the properties from class B, or here class is derived from this class B. So here class B acts as parent class and this class acts as child class, right? So this concept is called as multi-level inheritance, where we are deriving a new class from already derived class. Next, when a class is derived from a class which is also derived from another class, that is a class having more than one parent classes, such inheritance is called multi-level inheritance. The level of inheritance can be extended to any number of levels depending upon the relation. Multi-level inheritance is similar to relation between grandfather, father and child, right? So here child is derived from father, father is derived from grandfather, right? So this is nothing but multi-level inheritance. We are deriving a new class from already derived class. Okay, so this is called as a multi-level inheritance. For example, student is derived from person and person is derived from class called living things. Okay, so here we have derived student from person, again person is derived from living things. Okay, so this is called as a multi-level inheritance. One more example, car is derived from vehicle and again vehicle is derived from machine. Okay, so this is again one more example of multi-level inheritance. So this is an syntax of multi-level inheritance, where we have one base class, okay, and then we are defining one intermediate class, this is also it is called as an child class, and when you are deriving again next class, then in that case it is acting as parent class. So this is defined as intermediate class name, visibility mode, and then this is an base class name. Next, again when you are defining next child class name, visibility node, and then this is intermediate class name, because this child class is derived from this intermediate class, and this intermediate class is derived from this base class. So here this concept is highlighting the highlighting of multi-level inheritance. So here multi-level inheritance is this is an example where we have class A is what? Your base class, and class B is derived from this class A, right? So here this is acting as child class, as well as when you are deriving class C, it is derived from this class B, right? So here this is child class, and here class B is acting as parent class as well as child class. The child class, it acts as child class when you are defining class B from this class A. Okay, when it acts as parent, when you are defining class C from class B. So here it is class B is parent class, here class C is a child class. Okay, this is what we have most parent class, then we have parent class of C and child class of A. So this is class B is what? Parent class of C. Okay, so this class B is parent class of C and child class of A. That's why it is class B is what? It is child class of A and parent class of C. And this child class of B. Okay, class C is what? Child class of B. Class B. Because it is derived from this parent class called B. Next, this is an example of multi-level inheritance. Okay, parent class A having member function display. So here, this is an example. We have one base class called class A. In that we have defined one display function. In that we are defining base class content. Class B is derived from this class A. Okay, and class C is derived from this class B. In the main function, we are creating an object of this subclass or child class C. Okay, then we have created an object C of this subclass C, and then C dot display. C dot display will call this function, and then it will print base class content. Understanding, right? But we have display function is written in class A, but we have created an object of class C. But class C can extract the properties of class B. Class B can in turn extract the properties of class A. So that's why we can access C dot display function. So when you call this C dot display function, this content will be base class content will be displayed it onto the output. That's why. Okay, this is what they are highlighting here. Class B inherit the member function from class A. Okay, and then class B. After inheritance, class B looks like this. Class B is extracted from class public A. Then we have display function base class content. So here the class B is extracting the properties from class A, right? So that's why. So here class B is extracting the inherit the member function from class A. So it looks like this after inheritance. After inheriting, class B is inheriting the properties of class A. In that case, it looks like this. After that, when class C inherit the member function from class B. So in that case, after inheritance, class C look like this. Because class C is extracting the properties of class B, class B is in turn inheriting the properties of class A, right? So when class C inherits the properties of class B, so it looks like this. Next, call the display function of class C. So we have created an object of subclass or child class called class C, and this display function class C inherits from class B and class B inherits from class A, right? So here class C is what? It is inheriting the properties from class B, and finally when you call this display function, C dot display, so this base class content will be displayed. So I hope this multi-level inheritance concept is clear, right? So we are deriving a new class from already derived class. So here derived class is what? Here I am deriving a child class from already derived class called class B. So this is called as a multi-level inheritance. Next we have hybrid inheritance. So what is hybrid inheritance? So hybrid inheritance is method where one or more types of inheritance are combined together and used. So example of hybrid inheritance is combination of hierarchical and multi-level inheritance. So here we are mixturing, or we have the combination of two or different kinds of inheritance are involved to have an hybrid inheritance. Maybe it is a mixture of one or more types of inheritance. Maybe for example hybrid inheritance is a combination of hierarchical and multi-level inheritance. So it's a mixture of concept called hierarchical as well as concept of multi-level inheritance. For example, here class A is what? Most parent class, and here class B and class C is derived from class A, and class D is derived from what? Again class C or class B. So here class A is most parent class, and class B and class C are what? It acts as parent class. So it acts as parent class as well as child class. Okay. It acts as parent class as well as child class. So class D is what? Your child class. So here we are involving the concept of both hierarchical. What is hierarchical? Hierarchical, it has only one base class and many base subclasses. And what is multi-level? Multi-level is we are deriving new class from already derived class. So here we are deriving this child class from already derived class called class B and class C. Okay, so this is multi-level inheritance, and in hierarchical we have only one base class and there are many subclasses. Okay, that is called as an hierarchical inheritance. So here the hybrid inheritance, it involves both the concept called multi-level and hierarchical inheritance. So it is called as an hybrid inheritance. So here class A is what? Your most parent class, and class B is what? Parent class of D. Class B is what? Parent class of D and child class of A. So here class B is what? It is an parent. It's an parent for this class C and child class for this class A. And class D is what? Class D is child class of class C. Okay. And class C is what? It's an parent for this class D. Okay. So here class B is derived from class A. That's an here this base class is A and child class is class B. So here child class and A is what? Base class. So here class A is child class of base class called A, and class D is derived from B as well as C. So here class D is child class of base class called B and base class called C. Okay, so this completes your inheritance concept. So in today's class we discussed about all the types of inheritance. Okay, so what are the different types of inheritance we discussed? So first, starting with the single inheritance. Starting with the single inheritance where we have only one base class and one child class. Okay, these are the different types of inheritance we discussed in today's class. We have single inheritance where we have only one. So I'll just summarize what we discussed in today's class. First, I discussed about single inheritance where we have only one base class and one child class. Next, we discussed about multiple inheritance where we have many base classes. We are defining many base classes, but there is only one child class. Okay, so that highlights the concept of multiple inheritance. We have class A and class B are base classes, and class C is your child class. The next, multi-level inheritance. This is nothing but we are deriving new class from already derived class. So here class C is your child class, which is derived from class B, and class B is what? Again, it's an child class for class A because it is derived from class A. So this here A is what? Your most parent class. Here class C is what? Your intermediate class, which is acting as parent as well as child. It is acting as child for class C, and it is acting as parent for class C, acting as child for class A. The next, hierarchical inheritance where we have only one base class and there are many subclasses. So here A is what? Your base class, and B, C, D are what? Your child classes. So here B and C and D are what? Your subclasses which is derived from only one base class called class A. Next, hybrid inheritance. It is a combination of hierarchical and multi-level inheritance. It involves two concepts called multi-level and hierarchical. So it is called as an hybrid inheritance. So here we have one base class and these are again subclasses. Again D is what? Again subclass. So here it is involving concept of hierarchical where we have only one base class and there are many subclasses. So it is called as an hierarchical. And how it is multi-level? Because A is B, C are derived from class A, okay, and D is derived from class B or class B and class C. So here class D is what? It is acting as child class for B and C, and B and C are acting as child class for class A, okay. So and B and C are acting as parent for class D. So this is what the concept of inheritance, where we have different kinds of inheritance. And inheritance is we are extracting the properties, data members or the functions from many classes, okay. And there is one of the advantage of using concept of inheritance is reusability, okay. We can call the when you are using that concept or the member function, when you want to use that, you can create an object of that subclass and directly you can call that call the member function display, which is already declared in some base classes, and but you have created an object of some subclasses, but these subclasses can inherit the features from base classes, okay. So these all concepts we discussed in this inheritance concept, and this completes your 5th unit. This inheritance concept, we discussed all the visibility mode, public, private and protected, and even we discussed about inheritance definition, and we discussed about all the kinds of inheritance. So this completes your inheritance unit, and this all concepts where it involves the visibility mode, public and private, where it can be involved,